Okay, let's jump right in, Shaun. We're going to talk the Notre Dame run offense versus the USC run defense. So let's throw it up here. I will apologize in advance. It is not as clean looking as when Brian does it, but usually it comes from his side of things. But we got our stats up here. Look, Notre Dame has not run the ball very well this year. That is the understatement of the century. They're not even averaging 100 yards a game. That's 118th in the country. I mean, every one of those statistics for Notre Dame is in triple digits. That is not normal for Notre Dame. That is not a good thing, but it is what we've seen all year long up to this point, and things aren't going to change from a team ranking situation after 1 week. They had 180 yards on the ground, I do believe, against Virginia Tech, which is great. But that needs to trend the same way moving forward before we start getting overly excited about this run offense, Shaun.
Well, this game for me, if you've watched USC any this year, they are extremely light in the pants.
Yes.
They don't have a true defensive tackle. They have defensive ends, smallest defensive ends, trying to play on the inside. Their linebackers haven't been good. The top linebackers were injured before the season even started. And then their safety play has been atrocious. And they struggle tackling as a defense.
And that's what jumped off the screen at me was they are atrocious at tackling. I mean, just atrocious at tackling. Terrible.
So you think about that, you would lean towards Notre Dame. But like you said, now you look at Notre Dame's rushing offense and you see all of the numbers in the hundreds. And you say to yourself, okay, something has to give in this matchup. And you would think that Notre Dame, which every game we hear Brian Kelly, his pregame speech to the team, talk about physicality, one play at a time, taking the other team into deep waters. And
right.
Okay, this is the game where you show it. Because you're really facing a team that is soft, has been talked about as being extremely soft by the media that covers them. They're soft up the middle. They're not physical. So go ahead and pose your will. So for that, we can talk about the offensive line, Vince. We can talk about how the offensive line improved, how the running game looked better when Tyler Buckner was in there instead of Jack Cohn. We can get into all of those semantics. Right. This game for me comes down to Tommy Rees. Will you give a game plan that would allow your guys up front to go push USC around? Because they should be able to. It's as simple as that. Your guys, Patterson, Kristofic, Madden, Josh Lugg, and then Joe Alt, yes. Go push these guys around because physically they can't stand up to you, and there's nothing they can do from a scheme standpoint to stop you from doing it. They can't stop the rush up the middle, and they definitely can't stop the rush on the edges. They can't set the edge. They're too small. So when you have that type of advantage, in my opinion, that's going to be laid right at the feet of Tommy Rees and his willingness to go ahead and allow his offense to be physical. Even if USC comes out and they're into the game, because they've been in most of their games early. But by the time the third quarter comes around, they're worn down. And if you have to continue that, even if you're only getting 2 to 3 yards of carry early in the game, don't leave the run. Keep running the ball, and it will pay dividends late in the second quarter for the rest of the game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And I like what you're saying. You're laying it at the feet of Tommy Rees because I completely agree. And it doesn't have anything to do with 13 personnel. You know what I mean? Like you don't need 12 and 13 personnel to blow these guys off the line.
No,
you don't. And there are people I'm sure that would say you're playing into the hands of USC if you're trying to get out on the perimeter and do some things like that. I disagree. I think that you can run your jets and you can run, different things along those lines because it's not difficult to set the edge against these guys because they are light in the pants.
Yeah.
To steal your phrase, which I love. I think that you can push these guys around. You can get out on the perimeter. You can get Chris Tyree. You can get Braden Lindsey, on the move, hand the ball off, flip them the ball, whatever you need to do. reverses because they are extremely undisciplined.
Yes.
A reverse against this team is going to make them look ridiculous, especially with the speed that Notre Dame has. I just feel like they should be able to do pretty much whatever they want as long as they execute. That's the thing. They have to execute. They have to fire off the ball like they did against Virginia Tech.
Yes.
They have to bring the fight to USC. And look, it's a night game. It's going to be a great environment. It always is as a night game at Notre Dame. I feel like the fans actually, they're pretty lubed up by the time night games roll around. And so they bring it. I'll give the fans credit. A lot of times I'm knocking the fans. I will give them credit for the atmosphere that they bring for night games. That should feed right into the want for Notre Dame in the run game. They should want to just punish USC for taking that trip. Plus, it's going to be cold. It's going to be like in the 40s, which for USC, it might as well be snowing. Yeah. Right? I mean, everything is lining up to be in your advantage if you're Notre Dame, and they just need to take advantage of that.
And this team and this program, we're talking about USC, they're in a space with Dante Williams. I feel bad for him because he probably has assistant coaches sending their resume out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you have players that really don't have anything to hold on to. There's no chance of winning the Pac-12. So what are we playing for? And that's why you see this team being outscored 42-3 in the third quarter.
Yeah,
last 2 weeks, which is crazy. And what that says is we come out, we're excited about the game plan, we're excited to play, and once we get hit in the mouth, we don't have a counter. We just don't have a counter because we can't pull. There's nothing in well to pull from.
Right.
There's nothing we're really playing for other than just being out here and being excited. And if you allow them to stay in the game, you're going to have a problem on your hands. But if you punch them in the mouth and you be physical and wear them down and take their soul, they'll give up.
Yes, they will.
This team is in the right position for Notre Dame to just bury them if they come out, play physical football. And I'm not worried about the defense. We need the offense to set the tone. The defense has set the tone the entire year. This is a perfect game for Tommy Rees and that Notre Dame offense to set the tone with physicality from the first series for the rest of the game. Just take their soul, and you won't have to worry about this team.
Yeah, that's a really good point because – and we've talked about what the next 6 games have in store for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
The defenses that they're going to face are not good defenses. No. And this is an opportunity to show, okay, we're not playing a good defense. Let's take advantage of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because, the defense, they're going to give up some yards. I mean, against this style of offense, they're not, USC isn't great at it, but they're still going to be able to put up yardage, okay? Now, we're going to talk about the Notre Dame defense more tomorrow, obviously, but they're going to have their hands full. I'll just put it that way. The Notre Dame defense is going to have their hands full, so the offense has to step up. They have to be like, look, you guys have picked us up. The offense talking to the defense. You guys have picked us up almost every game up to this point.
Absolutely.
It's our turn to kind of, pick you guys up and make sure you guys are playing with a lead, right? Make sure you guys are playing so that, USC is already feeling the pressure with their offense because their defense is terrible, right? Because Notre Dame is running all over them and taking their soul, like you said. I love that. I think I really do think that this is an opportunity for this offense to prove to a lot of people that they have what it takes to just be physical. Just be physical. That's all we're asking for right now, because physicality will lead to other things offensively for Notre Dame, and the run game can set the tone.
Physicality and then creativity. That's why I laid everything at the feet of Tommy Rees.
Yeah.
You talked about it. If you go watch how teams have attacked USC, it's not just lining up with 2 tight ends and, 12, like you said,
right,
11, 12 personnel. No, you can spread them out, 3 receivers and a tight end, and still be physical.
Right.
You can go 4 wide and still be physical, depending upon the play call. Because one thing I know, their defensive ends and their outside linebackers are very young. and they just want to get to the quarterback. That's all they want to do. They fly up the field every play. You talked about how undisciplined they are. If you know this early on, use that to your advantage.
Absolutely.
Maybe you run some draw plays. Maybe you run something off schedule. They might be expecting this, or we're going to go to this in this situation. We're going to give them a similar look and make them think we're going to what we've done the previous 6 games. Guess what? You didn't plan for this. And that's what Tommy Rees has to do for the second half of this season. He has to take what teams are seeing on film and be able to adjust and stay ahead of teams each and every game. And then that starts with the foundation of the physicality. It doesn't – when you tell your team we can only be physical in this formation –
yes.
Then what are you saying? You can tell a team, look, we're going to go 4 wide and we're still going to be physical.
Right.
We're going to knock their butts off the ball. And if they put 9 in the box, then we're going to pop this quick screen out to the outside and get a big play. It's that simple.
Yep.
It really is that simple. So I want to see that mindset, like you talked about it, come out, be physical, knock them off the ball, establish the run. There's no reason why Kyron Williams didn't have 100 yards in this game.
Right.
No reason.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. And you make a really good point in that you don't have to have 3 or 4 tight ends on the field to be physical. That's not what we mean by being physical. You can have just your 5 linemen doing their thing, and then you've got 5 other guys going out on routes or running the ball or whatever the case may be, and still be physical. Like, it doesn't have to be 13 personnel. You don't have to dress Michael Carmody in an eligible number and have him as a tight end. Like, you don't. That is not necessary. And the fact that Brian Kelly brought that up in the press conference yesterday just made me, hand to head. Just like, hand to head immediately. Like, why are we doing this? It is not necessary.
They're just stuck on doing things the way they feel like they need to be done.
Right.
Mitchell Evans won't be back to the second half. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Then go to other sets that will still allow you to be physical. Like, stop being stuck with, like, we can't do it unless we have 2 tight ends. So let's move a guy he's not as athletic as Joe Alt.
Nope.
He's not as good at left tackle as Joe Alt.
Right.
But let's try to move him to tight end.
Right. Let's have him seal the edge.
Absolutely.
At tight end.
And I think I heard you guys mention it. Yeah, let's let the defense know that he's no viable option in the passing game when he comes on the field. Right.
That's exactly right. You're taking a guy off. At least when you have a real tight end in the game, he's a viable option. George Takis hasn't been a viable option until the last game where he finally caught a pass. He's been targeted 1 time, and he caught a pass for 15 yards. Woo! Like that, you should be sending him out on routes more often. Because people look at him as a tackle right now. They don't look at when 85 is on the field that he's a viable, threat in the pass game. And if you're going to put Michael Carmody in number 45 or whatever number that you're going to put him in, they know he's not a viable option. This isn't the NFL where they're going to throw to a tackle. It's not going to happen. They've watched enough Notre Dame film to know that they're not throwing to that guy. Just like they never put Joe Alt when he was wearing 45 and he was in there as the 3rd tight end. They didn't put him out, in a pass route. It's just not going to happen, and you're not fooling anybody. So why are we doing it?
And it's so confusing. His press conference yesterday it just had me spinning, almost like someone had hit me in the head with a bat. And the birds were just spinning around the top of my head. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, when I think it was Tyler who asked the question about the 2 Jack Combs. Yeah. Right? And how do you get him to perform the way he does to close the game early on in the game? And he goes into this whole soliloquy of the game plan, the usage of Tyler Buckner. And so basically, we can't be physical with Jack Combs early in the game. Right. So we have to bring in Tyler Buckner to be physical and to wear the defensive line down so that when it comes to the 4th quarter, they can't pass rush because Tyler Buckner has worn them down in the middle of the game. And it's like, what are we talking about?
Good question.
It's like we can only be physical with certain packages. Right. So you're saying I don't have a physical football team. So I have to create packages to where they can be physical. and then we can wear the defense down, and then Jack Cohn can come in and be the quarterback we believe he can be. And practice. I was so confused.
It made no sense.
So confused, and I'm like, oh, so now we're using Tyler Buckner.
Right.
We're not bringing him in to actually develop him. This is your package. This is your purpose. Wear the other team down, and then we'll win it with Jack in the end.
Right.
Totally confused.
Yep. That makes two of us. Believe me, that makes two of us. So on paper, this looks like it should be advantage USC.
Right.
As we're looking at these numbers, it should be advantage USC. Yeah. So I'll ask you, Shaun, who do you give the advantage to in this matchup?
I'll give the advantage to Notre Dame. The numbers are skewed because, honestly, USC does not play in a physical conference. They play in a conference where people like to throw the ball. So those rushing attempts and the rushing attacks that they faced really haven't been strong rushing attacks. But somehow, some way, teams still find a way to run the ball against them.
Right.
So that bodes well for Notre Dame. Teams that really don't even focus on running the ball find a way to make that the key point and key part of the game plan when they're facing USC. Tommy Rees follows suit. Every other offensive coordinator can take their pride and put it to the side. And even though they might want to throw the ball 30 to 40 times, they see USC on the schedule and they say, we can just push these guys around, and eventually I can get to my passing game and play action and some of the other actions off of a physical running game that sets the tone.
Absolutely. This is, after what I saw against Virginia Tech, because going into Virginia Tech, Brian and I gave the advantage in all three categories, run game, pass game, scoring. We gave it all to Virginia Tech against Notre Dame's offense because they just hadn't shown us that they're going to win any of these matchups, right? Yeah. And if I didn't see what I saw against Virginia Tech, I would still be on that bandwagon where until we see something, I got to go with the opposition. But I did see some improvement. Okay, so number one, I saw improvement from the offensive line. I saw 5 guys that are giving it everything that they've got, which that's all I'm asking for right now.
That's it. Yep.
My bar is not high. I'm asking you to fire out the football, drive your legs, look like you've played offensive line before. And I will also say that I was pleasantly surprised that Brian Kelly is going to stick with the 5 guys that he's going to stick with. He's going to stick with Alt at left tackle. He's going to stick with Kristofik at left guard. I personally would still like to see Josh Lugg at right guard and then, somebody else at right tackle.
Agreed.
But he at least gave me the left side.
Right.
I'll take what I can get at this point. And then you throw in the fact that USC is just horrible on defense. Tackling is just terrible. And they're not – they can't hold up. Whatever you think the definition of they can't hold up is, they can't hold up. They can't hold up at the line of scrimmage. They don't hold up tackling-wise. Guys are running through their arm tackles. They are running through tackles, period. Opposition are always falling forward against USC. There's been a couple of plays where they've gotten lucky and they've brought numbers and they've found a gap. But other than that, they're not making plays on their own. And I just don't see them making a bunch of plays in this one either. So I'm going to give Notre Dame the advantage here in the run game. I can't believe I'm saying that Notre Dame has an advantage in the run game against anybody, but against USC, they do. They do. Yeah, and I'm gonna roll with that. So
I rarely watch a team that's bad on all 3 levels on one side of the ball. And right now, that's USC.
Yeah.
They don't have any trust in one another.
Right.
So everybody's out of position. Everybody's trying to make a play when they're not supposed to be in that position, and they leave their position open and big plays. Big plays down the middle can happen all night against this team. The right behind the linebackers and right in front of the safeties.
Yep.
Against USC, that's the promised land.
Mm-hmm.
You can get big plays there all night long because the linebackers are undisciplined. They're trying to help out, a defensive line that's really not penetrating and making plays. They're trying to come downhill. The defensive ends are just coming. I mean, Tyler Buckner would probably have a big game. If Tyler Buckner played all 4 quarters, Notre Dame would still win this game.
I agree.
If Tommy Rees called the correct game.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Tyler Buckner, he would take advantage of the defense and the undisciplined and being out of position all night long. And he's good throwing down the middle of the field.
Yeah.
If Tyler has to throw to the outside, that's when his accuracy comes up a little bit more. But crossing routes across the middle, tight ends, all of that, we'll get to it. I'm sure we'll talk about the passing offense, but
that's our next stop.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, all right. So,